I want to first thank Phyllis Anderson for sending this story. U.S. heroin deaths jump 533% since 2002, report says. I'm going to go ahead and play this video.
Every 19 minutes, someone dies from an accidental drug overdose. Most of the time, it's from prescription drugs like oxycodone or hydrocodone. These drugs all belong to a family of drugs called opioids. They are prescribed to dull pain, but they also boost dopamine, giving some people a high. They can also slow down your breathing and are highly addictive. So why is it so easy to get hooked? Well, for one, your body can build up a tolerance, so that the more you use, the larger dose you need to get the same effect. Secondly, you can become dependent on them. In fact, your body creates natural opioids that are released when you hurt yourself. But if you habitually use painkillers, your body stops producing its own and relies on the drugs instead. If you try and stop then, the body goes through withdrawal. Consider this. In 2012, there were 259 million prescriptions written for opioid painkillers, nearly enough for every American adult and child to have their own bottle of pills. Look, we need to treat pain, but we also don't need to treat everything with a pill.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Your body makes its own opioids. Now, see, there's some learning that I just did. The number of heroin users in the United States jumped from 404,000 in 2002 to 948 in 2016, a 135% increase according to the most recent government numbers. But even more striking, the number of people who had fatal overdoses related to heroin has skyrocketed from 2,089 in 2002 to an estimate of 13,219 in 2016, a 533% jump. Wow, that is pretty significant. The number of the strike marker of the lethality of the opioid epidemic that has taken root across the country. More Americans lost to drugs than in the Vietnam War. Now that's unbelievable, but it's the truth. I mean, there are so many people on drugs now, they can't hide this. It's just crazy for them to believe they can. Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price said more Americans' lives are lost to drug than the loss in Vietnam. The U.S. military saw 58,000 casualties during Vietnam. This year, drug overdose deaths are expected to reach an all-time high of 71,600. Wow. And you see it's jumping up every single year. In 2016, they're estimating about 64,000. So for 2017, they're estimating it at 71,600. Wow. This is unacceptable, said Price, who was part of a panel that released the latest findings from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration's 2016 National Survey on Drug Use and Health on Thursday. The report wasn't entirely bad news. The number of people who misuse and abuse opioids has remained relatively stable since last year. Opioids can include both prescription drugs such as hydrocodone or oxycodone, as well as illegal drugs like heroin or street fentanyl. Misuse of a narcotic include using someone else's prescription drugs, using a higher dose than prescribed, or buying prescription drugs off the streets. The discrepancy between increased overdose and steady use levels has public health officials concerned about just how potent the drugs are becoming. And plus, you have to also realize, in some cases, as I had did in other videos, A person will actually die from drugs, but they'll put another cause of death on the death certificate. So when they say that the number is stable, how do you really know that when the death certificates aren't even accurate? What's in today's drug supply is really terrifying, said Richard Baum, acting director of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, who was also part of the panel releasing the new report. Approximately 11.8 million Americans misuse an opioid in 2016. The new report says of those, just 8% used heroin. The majority misuse prescription painkillers. And the main reason wasn't to get high, but get pain relief. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all. Many of them are doing these drugs to be high. I don't agree with that. In addition, an estimated 2.1 million people were addicted to heroin or prescription painkillers last year, a number that has remained fairly constant since 2011. But while opioid use hasn't changed much, the number of drug overdoses is expected to grow. Yeah, the fentanyl alone is like off the charts around the country. It is so off the chart. They can't control this. And they're putting fentanyl in everything, in marijuana and cocaine. It is just cropping up literally in everything. And right now, fentanyl is killing more people than gun violence and car accidents. So don't waste your time with all this black on black crime. This plague has far exceeded that. You sound stupid even bringing it up at this point in time. There is nothing that's happening in America right now that supersedes this drug plague. Nothing. The CDC estimates that there were more than 52,000 overdose deaths for 2016 and projects that number to climb 38% over to 71,000 in 2017. That's a pretty significant jump. Opioids continue to be the drivers for these overdoses, including both legally prescribed prescription painkillers as well as illegal drugs. In fact, the number of overdose deaths related to mere fentanyl is expected to more than double from an estimate 9,945 in 2016 to 20,145 in 2017, the CDC says. Wow. Woo, man. The rise of cocaine, the CDC is also seeing a trend of overdose deaths related to cocaine, which have increased steadily from 4,000 in 2009 to over 6,700 in 2015. The agency expects that number to rise to over 6,900 in 2016, and then to make a 52% jump to almost 11,000 cocaine-related deaths this year. And that's because they are lacing the cocaine with fentanyl, and they're not telling a lot of the users. These drug dealers aren't even telling the users, so they're snorting the cocaine, and they have a mix of fentanyl, which is causing their deaths. And while there has been a reported increase in cocaine production, Collodi said that the rise in cocaine-related overdose was a logical result of increased fentanyl use. That's it. All right. So people are dying of fentanyl overdoses through a mixture of cocaine. And that actually started in New York, by the way. That's where it first hit. And now it's gradually moving across the entire country. So Please leave your comments and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. And please also make a donation to the hurricane relief. And I will leave the link to all of those in the comment section. Peace, family.